can I just say something? I did suggest you for a role, and I was very disappointed when you didn't get that role. I remember it. But it would have been improper for me to have pushed you or done something that favoured you in an abnormal way. You can't just machine friends into jobs. You can't. Not in City Hall. I suggested you for the job. I was very keen for Kit to interview. I remember Kit interviewed you. I asked him about it afterwards repeatedly, why he hadn't given you the job, and I was very disappointed he hadn't. I remember. And I'm afraid one of the reasons he gave was that he thought you were too friendly with me. No, I'm incredibly fucking busy. I tried to meet you the other day. Jesus fucking arsehole. I tried to meet you. Okay, apart from there's lots of solutions. You can go to Theresa May and say, Boris Johnson is a bastard. No worse. Fine, I don't know.
Support kinship carers better who step up to support the child in crisis. Yes.
Minister to sorry. Minister, I want the question. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear it. Can you just answer the question?
Mr. Speaker, yeah.
Because I couldn't.
Apologise for confusion, Mr. Speaker. The answer to the honourable lady, yes.
Thank you. That's very. Before we come to Prime Minister's questions, I'd like to point.
As returning officer for the leadership election, I can report that we have 8 candidates duly nominated in alphabetical order. Kemi Badenoch, proposed by Lee Rowley, seconded by Julia Lopez. Suella Braverman, proposed by David Jones, seconded by Miriam Cates. Jeremy Hunt, proposed by Esther McVeigh and seconded by Anthony Mangnall. Penny Mordaunt, proposed by Dame Andrea Leadsom, and seconded by Craig Tracy. Rishi Sunak, proposed by Dominic Raab, seconded by Mel Stride. Liz Truss, proposed by Simon Clarke, seconded by Therese Coffey. Tom Tugendhat, proposed by Anne-Marie Trevelyan, seconded by James Daly. And Nadeem Zahawi, proposed by Brandon Lewis, seconded by Amanda Milling. Those 8 will go to the first round ballot tomorrow between 1:30 and 3:30, with the results announced as soon as we can after that. Thank you.
Come to questions to the Prime Minister. I start with Robin Miller.
Mr. Speaker, from tomorrow.
Just sit down. Sit. Shut up. up a minute. What's it called? Give me the word in. Order! Order! I say to the honourable gentleman, I will not touch behaviour. If you want to go out now, but if you stand again, I will order you out. Make your mind up. Either shut up and get out. I warn the honourable member that if they stop protesting, carrying out to shut up a minute. Does somebody want to at once? Order! Sit down, you want me in the future. I now warn of the honourable members that if they persist in refusing to comply with my order to withdraw, I shall be compelled to name both of them, which may lead to them being suspended from the House. Right, names. To ensure that the honourable member complies. Can it? What's the names? I order! Shut it. Shh! Neil Hanby, I am now naming you! And Kenny McCaskill to leave this chamber! Sean! Deal with them! Deal with them! Deal with them! Just sit down. Out! No! Sergeant at Arms, escort them out. Bobby Miller.
Mr. Speaker, from tomorrow.
Just sit in there. Sit. Shut up a minute. What's it called? Come. Give me the word in. Order! Order! I say to the honourable gentleman, give me the seat. I will not tolerate such behaviour. If you want to go out now, but if you stand again, I will order you out. Make your mind up. Either shut up and get out. I warn the honourable member that if things protesting, carrying out to shut up a minute. Does somebody want to at once? Give me the names. Order! Sit down, you want me in the future. I now warn of the honourable members that if they persist in refusing to comply with my order to withdraw, I shall be compelled to name both of them, which may lead to them being suspended from the House. Right, names. ensure that the honourable member complies. Can it? What's the names?
Neil Hanvey and Kenny
I order. Shut up. Shh. Neil Hanvey, I am now naming you and Kenny McCaskill to leave this chamber. Sergeant, deal with them. Deal with them. Deal with them. Just sit down. Out. No. Sergeant at Arms, escort them out.
Welcome the new cabinet. We have a new Chancellor who accepted a job from the on Wednesday afternoon and then told him to quit on Thursday morning. A new Northern Ireland Secretary who once asked if you need a passport to get to Derry. And the new Education Secretary whose junior ministers have literally been giving the middle finger to the public. It is truly the country's loss that they will only be in post for a few weeks. Now, the Prime Minister must be feeling demop happy since he was pushed out of office. Finally, he can throw off the shackles, say what he really thinks, and forget about following the rules. So, does he agree? Does he agree it's time to scrap the absurd non-dom status that allows the super-rich to dodge tax in this country?
I thank you very much, and it's perfectly true that I'm grateful for the ability to speak my mind, which I never really lost, Mr. Speaker. But what I'm focusing on is continuing the government of the country. And as I've just told you, Mr. Speaker, from tomorrow, £326 is arriving. Never mind non-doms, Mr. Speaker. Doms or non-doms, I don't mind. £326 is arriving in the bank accounts of 8 million vulnerable people. And how can we do that? Because we took the decisions to get the strong economy that we currently have, that I'm afraid were resisted by growth in May at 0.5%, Mr. Speaker, which they weren't expecting. We have, as I've told you before, Mr. Speaker, 620,000 more people in payroll employment than before the pandemic began. And one of the consolations of leaving office at this particular time, Mr. Speaker, is that vacancies are at an all-time high.
Yes, Starmer.
Cut him some slack. Faced with an uncertain future, a mortgage-sized decorator's bill that'll be soon for somebody else's flat, I'm not surprised he's careful not to upset any future employers. So here's an even simpler one. Does he agree that offshore schemes can pose a risk because some people use them to avoid tax they owe here?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of the investment that this country attracts from around the world. And he's talking about people from offshore people investing in the UK. I'm absolutely thrilled to see that we've had, I think, 12 billion in tech alone come in the last couple of months. I think it's possible, Mr. Speaker, he's referring not to me, but to some of the 8 brilliant candidates who are currently vying for my job. Let me just tell him that any one of them will wipe the floor with Captain. Wipe the floor.
Can I just say the furniture has to be repaired? And one of the members already had one bill. I'm sure he doesn't want another. Prime Minister.
Any one of them would wipe the floor with Captain Crasheroony Snoozefest, Mr. Speaker. And after a few weeks' time, that is exactly what they will do. They will unite around the winner and do just that.
Yes, Starmer.
He's been saying all week that he wants revenge on those that have wronged him. Here's an idea, Prime Minister. If he really wants to hit them where it hurts, he should tighten the rules on tax avoidance. But at the very least, does he agree that anyone running to be Prime Minister should declare where they and their families have been domiciled for tax purposes and whether they've ever been a beneficiary of an offshore tax scheme.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, to the best of my knowledge, everybody in this Parliament...
with the joint investigation with the Times newspaper has exposed yet again more evidence of unlawful killings by special forces, this time in Afghanistan. When this came up before, the government, and in particular the MOD, was determined to sweep this under the carpet. But those who serve in uniform and the public they protect deserve better than this. These aren't vexatious claims from campaigning lawyers. They come from within the armed forces themselves, and indeed from our allies in Australia. So will the Prime Minister commit to an Australia-style independent inquiry as backed by General Lord Richards? But more broadly, hasn't the case been made again for democratic oversight of special forces?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's a long-standing practice, I think, accepted on both sides of this House, that we do not comment on forces. That does not mean that we in any way accept the factual accuracy of the claims to which he is alluded. On the other hand, Mr. Speaker, nor does it mean that anybody who serves in Her Majesty's Armed Forces is the law.
The knife in last week, nor do they want the person who has so many of those. Boris Johnson's back and still around. And the third thing, and this is also another conclusion of that leadership of that poll from YouGov of the Tory membership, is that Rishi Sunak loses to almost every contender, including almost everybody apart from Nadhim Zahawi, who was only on 1%. So it doesn't look like he's going to be in the race for long. There are 3 or so people in a drop zone. Jeremy Hunt claims he's got through. We will find out whether that's the case. Nadhim Zahawi not doing fantastically with the members, and could even Kemi Badenoch, the much-touted second favourite in that YouGov poll, will she be getting enough momentum, or is Suella Braverman getting over the line? Those are the questions that we'll get the answers to at 5 o'clock.
And it's worth, isn't it, just reflecting on how fast this is all moving. So we've got the first ballot today, then we're straight on to the second one tomorrow. It does feel like a leadership race almost in fast forward. So I guess momentum really is everything.
And it's the question that Tory MPs seek to answer through this. Is the most important thing for the vast majority of the 358 MPs who stops Rishi Sunak, because some of them feel that he betrayed Boris Johnson and would be continuity on some of the aspects of the government that's currently crumbling that they didn't like? Is the main thing to do out there get Penny Mordaunt on the ballot? Are people focusing on who's in the last 2? Or do they just want to make sure she displaces either Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak in that last 3? Or is there much of a stop Liz Truss campaign? I don't detect a huge stop Liz Truss campaign at the moment, but because we're dealing with 358 Conservative MPs, I think Graham Brady might not vote, but the rest all expressing their opinion in private ballots today. I think we're going to see some shake-up of where the votes fall, and we're going to get a sense of why MPs are voting, as well as how they vote very shortly.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see that, isn't it? Because as you know, Sam, MPs can often do one thing in public and quite another in private, particularly when there's jobs on the line. We'll be coming back to you shortly, Sam, as the race hots up. Less than 10 minutes now until we do get the first result from the Conservative leadership first round of voting in the ballot. There's 8 candidates currently in the competition, but at 5 o'clock, of course, it does feel like that number will almost certainly be whittled down, and who is in the drop zone is really where the focus is going to be. Let's bring in our political editor, Beth Rigby, again, shall we? Beth, let's just reflect on the speed of this contest. It does feel like we're almost in politics at fast forward. At the minute, we had Prime Minister's questions, Boris Johnson's, perhaps his last ever Prime Minister's questions, and then straight away we are talking about who his successor could be. It really does feel like it's moving at breakneck speed.
It really is moving at breakneck speed. It's moving at breakneck speed because MPs want to make sure that they can whittle the candidates down to the final 2 before they rise, before they break for recess, for the summer recess on July the 21st. And then they will take this battle to the members and tour the country over August with the announcement about who will replace Boris Johnson announced on September the 5th, Monday, when all the kids go back to school and we all come back to Westminster, and then on Tuesday the 6th, the handover of power. But there was an interesting moment in the House of Commons today when Boris Johnson suggested that that might be his last PMQ, and someone could just be anointed as the leader. That would only happen if they get to the final two and someone drops out. You'll remember that's what happened back in 2016 between Theresa May and Andrea Leadsom. And I have to say, I did check that out, and people around Boris Johnson, someone in his camp said that they were quite surprised that he had said that. I don't think that was a scripted remark. The expectation, certainly in Westminster, is that, especially from the 22 committee, that there will be two candidates and they will go around the country trying to win the support of party members. And Sam was just talking there, wasn't he, about Rishi Sunak and the fact that you put him up against any other contender pretty much, and he is not the guy that necessarily the party members want. You know, I've talked to his camp about that, and the Rishi Sunak camp hits back with the idea, the notion that actually the public would support Rishi Sunak, according to polling, over other candidates. And also they are arguing that the tour around the UK will give Rishi Sunak the opportunity to try and really talk to party members and try to win them round. So once we get to the final two, which is unpredictable to predict, we then have the idea, the notion of this being quite an open race going into the hustings around the country. And I remember covering the race between Jeremy Hunt and Boris Johnson back in 2019, and both men put in a huge amount of effort, but really it was cosmetic in that Boris Johnson was pretty much always nailed on to take and win the party membership and win that race. And he ran it really decisively. Whereas this time around, it really does seem to be far wider open in terms of who might make the final two and then who might win the competition.
Well, as we're talking there, Beth, we have got the first live pictures in of the committee room where we're going to be hearing the announcements from Sir Graham Brady of the 1922 committee, the first round of the ballot in the Conservative leadership contest. Of course, electing the next leader, but also the next Prime Minister as well. And you can see some people just... The first people to take their seats in that room now are starting to make their way in. About 5 minutes or so until we're expecting that announcement, which we'll, of course, bring you straight away. In the meantime, Beth, I just wonder what you make of the, I guess, the tone of the campaign so far. All the MPs that I've interviewed today have said that they want to make sure that, actually, I'm just going to pause there because we can see Penny Mordaunt. Penny, how confident are you? Smiles from Penny Mordaunt. They're flanked by Andrea Leadsom as she walks through Central Lobby. Smiles from Penny Mordaunt as well. Perhaps unsurprisingly, as it does feel like she is getting some campaign momentum, doesn't it? Let's go back to you now, Beth. And Beth, it's interesting, that's the second time we've seen Penny Mordaunt walk through Central Lobby. Perhaps a sign of someone who might be quite confident, I guess, going into the first round?
Backers, and she is with Rishi Sunak, the only one that's officially gone over the 30 vote threshold of public backers. So she is now firmly into second place. She had a successful launch this morning, and you've seen the polling this afternoon putting her as the party members' favourite and now the bookies' favourite. So for Penny Mordaunt, as I was saying, the dark horse, the rather unknown in this race, this has been a very, very positive day for her and her team. But let's see where Liz Truss comes out too. She will come out, no doubt, fighting tomorrow. And also, there's still big cabinet backers still to declare, and that will be watched with interest too. But in the imminent moments, what we will be looking at is we'll be looking to see, as Sam was saying, who is in the drop zone. When you look at the publicly declared backers of MPs, Nadeem Zahawi and Jeremy Hunt both on 14 supporters, Suella Braverman on 16, Kemi Badenoch on 24. So we're looking to see with those four who will make it through. I think it's pretty nailed on, to be honest, that Jeremy Hunt probably won't make it. Someone close to him saying to me the numbers were looking pretty dicey for Jeremy Hunt, but that perhaps, as I said earlier, an opportunity for Penny Mordaunt, because it was she who supported Jeremy Hunt back in 2019. And you were saying, Sophie, about Andrew Leadsom, Dame Andrew Leadsom, former Cabinet Minister, going through central lobby with Penny Mordaunt. Andrew Leadsom introduced Penny Mordaunt on stage today, just as Penny Mordaunt introduced Jeremy Hunt back in 2019 when he was the guy that went through to the final two and in that run-off with Boris Johnson. So, you know, I would suggest, I would hope or expect for Penny Mordaunt's sake that if she backed him back then, once he drops out of the race, will he come in behind her and can he bring other supporters with him?
I guess that's it, isn't it? Because the people who drop out of the race is interesting, not just because they're no longer in it, but of course that question, as you were saying there, Beth, about where their supporters go. All eyes on the 1922 committee, which is filling up, people fanning themselves. I guess, Beth, what are your sort of predictions as we wait for that result? It's now 5 o'clock, so we're expecting it at any moment.
Well, I mean, I hate making predictions in politics because it's so changeable. But look, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that we're going to have 4 to 5 people nailed on to go through, and it's a question of who drops out. And then once that happens, how quickly the race tightens. The thing else I'm looking at in the next couple of days is how quickly, or does the right of the party coalesce around Liz Truss as their favoured candidate, and can Penny Mordaunt keep momentum, or will people that don't want Liz Truss then move to Rishi Sunak? That's what I'm interested in. They're coming in.
Wrong piece of paper. It's what I prepared. Good evening. Good evening. I can now announce the result of the ballot held this afternoon. I'll read the names of the candidates in alphabetical order with the number of votes secured by that candidate. Badenoch, 40. Braverman, 32, Hunt, 18, Mordaunt, 67, Sunak, 88, Truss, 50, Tugendhat, 37, Zahawi, 25. Therefore, the rules that we agreed for this ballot, 2 candidates were eliminated, Jeremy Hunt and Nadeem Zahawi. The others are all able to go forward to the second ballot, which takes place tomorrow. Thank you very much. Because we've got votes coming at 17 minutes past, I think 3 votes, it's time for the cameras to leave the room, and we will start our hustings at the end of the last of the divisions. Thank you. We'll do that then as well. Let's do that, because we've got all of the... Very good.
holding Liz Truss back in terms of the votes. And finally, you've got Tom. He is the choice of the One Nation group of Conservatives on 37, having had publicly declared 22 votes. Now, what's hard when you look at Penny Mordaunt is that she is positioning a conviction Brexiteer and a One Nation. Even when he finally has to concede or gets voted out, those 18 votes for Jeremy Hunt, as I was saying, he was the guy that backed, or she was the woman that backed him back in 2019. I expect he will fall into her camp now. So the race really on, and actually at the moment, the Stop Sign campaign isn't doing very well in terms of the right of the party being split across those three candidates, Truss, Badenoch and Braverman, and how might that wash out in the ballots tomorrow. But for Sunak and Mordaunt, they will be absolutely delighted, I imagine, with their showing in the first round.
And Beth, I'm interested to know your thoughts. You were speaking before about the three candidates, Rishi Sunak, Penny Mordaunt and Liz Truss, who perhaps you have a sense they have the momentum pulling away slightly from the others. How important it race for second place with Penny Mordaunt on 67 votes compared to 50 for Liz Truss?
Well, so that for me, that race is the most interesting and actually the one everyone's talking about when you catch up with the campaigns and you talk to MPs. Because if you're Rishi Sunak and you are out front as he is, you've got to think, who best placed to beat in the final hustings with party members? And at the moment, when you're looking at the polling of YouGov members and the bookies, Penny Mordaunt is not the person that Rishi Sunak will face in the final round. In fact, one of his camp or MP supporters told me that yesterday. They were quite explicit about that. So what we're going to get onto soon is, as this shakes out and as this contest really begins to narrow down, you've got to have how much momentum has Rishi Sunak got, and can he afford to start lending votes from his campaign to others in order to perhaps block Penny Mordaunt? Now, his camp insists to me that is not what they're doing. Too wild and wild Rishi Sunak as many votes as they can. But as it gets to the final stages, which could come as early as Monday, it could be decided it could run on to Wednesday next week. The considerations that some of the operations behind these candidates will be making. I remember back in 2019 when we knew that Boris was going to get over. Really, in terms of the other two, there was Michael Gove, another Brexiteer, there was Jeremy Hunt, a Remainer turned Brexiteer, and it ended up with, I think, Jeremy Hunt getting 75 votes and Michael Gove getting 73, and that was widely discussed afterwards, which camp had helped slightly stump Michael Gove by lending votes to Jeremy Hunt to get him over, and not Michael Gove, still Boris Johnson's arch enemy, out of the race.
Also, Beth, it's a reflect as well on the number of candidates who are still in it. There were 8 candidates in the race at the beginning of the day in it as well. Only Jeremy Hunt and Nadeem Zahawi falling at the first hurdle. Do you think that's going to impact the tone of the race going forward?
I do think that's interesting. I mean, there was a discussion at the beginning of this when Boris Johnson was forced to concede that he couldn't carry on as Prime Minister on Thursday last week, immediately onto how quickly are they going to be able to whittle down the candidates? Will the party try and do this from before recess? And then there was a discussion in the party about thresholds that they would set in order to try and whittle this race down quickly. You know, we runners and riders with pretty ballot, we're down to 6, and I might have expected that to be lower, but they didn't have as big a threshold, as high a threshold, I should say, as perhaps people thought might happen at the beginning. There was some talk before the number 90-20 decided the rules, for example, that MPs would need 10% of the parliamentary party to get past the first ballot. That would have been 36 MPs. Now, if they'd applied that rule, Suella Braverman would have automatically been out, and Tom Tugendhat would have just scraped through. But they didn't decide to do that. I think there was a sort of view from MPs as well, like we want our candidates to have a run at it. But let's see what happens tomorrow and how it shakes out. But 6 at this stage that's quite a lot of runners and riders still. And as I said, one of the interesting things when you look at that list is how the right of the party really has not settled on one candidate.